Even nowadays, I don't think it's easy for an American playing cricket, whether it's in the U.S. or abroad in England. And one of the great stories that you told me, and I nearly burst out laughing when you told me about this, the greatest crime you ever committed on a cricket field, having an American accent.
Yeah. The league knew that Banstead had an American, so they knew who I was. When I would play away games on Sundays with the different counties, they walk to wickets and they go, we can't work out your accent. And they just couldn't work it out. We said, we think you're South African, but you're not right. That's not quite right. Australian, not quite right. Where are you from? And I would say I'm a product of Southern California cricket. I'm an American cricketer. And they'd go crazy. They couldn't believe it. It's funny because when I would have really good games, they were so interested in me and how I learned how to play and my background. But when I had a bad game, they go, "Well, he's American. He doesn't know how to play." You know, to date, that goes the same way. I went to Barbados 2 years ago, and I was playing with an Australian team, and they heard my accent. They said, "Oh, what, are you a supporter?" I said, "No, I play." you know, so I think the accent, yeah, the biggest, my resume would be complete, would be solid if I just had, in my opinion, a cricketing accent. Yeah, I've always wanted an English accent, but I don't have one.
Did you find it tougher to fit in cricket overseas in England, or did you find it tougher to fit in cricket in Southern California, having an American accent?
No, in England, the English are the individuals who are, when English subs would come here, they'd say, "Well, you couldn't do that what you do in England." And I go, "I do it all the time." The English sort of critique me more. I always find the West Indians, the Pakistanis, the Indians, they love what I bring to the table. They don't care how I speak. They don't. Even the Australians, but the English are the ones that give me a hard time with the accent. Although on that plane in Barbados, that was an Australian side. But I always find the English give me a harder time with my accent. Yeah, my friends in England wanted me to go out there and be silly and just say, "Well, so how do you do this? Do you have to take a guard? Do you have to do this? Do you have to do that?" I would never do that. I could never, ever, ever. That was on our friendly game, like during cricket week and stuff, not during league games. And I could never do that. I wouldn't say ashamed of my accent, but I never talked much. But after the games, they all wanted. If I scored 100, they all wanted to talk to me. They all wanted to know, where did I come from? How did you learn how to play like that? This and that and the other. And so the English sort of gave me a harder time than the other countries. Australians, I got offers to play in Australia in the grey cricket, and they love me. In West Indies, just the English give me a hard time.
Did you feel like you were treated almost like a circus freak show or a zoo animal in that sense, where they were
Some,
kind of incredulous and you belonged more in Barnum and Bailey than you did on a cricket field?
sometimes, yes. And particularly when they would hear me speak, and they knew I was American, then they would sledge, and I was getting an earful. Yeah, I got that. I played against the old England team, and I hit Freddie Trueman for 2 sixes. He was giving me the hardest time being an American, and he couldn't. He said, I don't play against Americans and this and that. And he bounced me twice. I'm probably the only guy living to hit for two consecutive sixes. I got mad in the match in that game, and we walked up to me because I don't know where you learn how to play, but well, you can bat, laddie. That's what he told me, and he never bounced me again. And that was back in '79, '78, and that was the Banstead. So that was pretty cool because the old England 11, they had Fred Titmus, they had Harold Rhodes, they had Freddie Trueman, they had Roy Sweatman behind the stumps, they had Brian Close, who I caught. They had a lot of good players, English players. So that was very, very cool. Particularly when Freddie Trueman came at me, he came at me, and I said, "You know what? You can call me what you want, but don't drop it short." Because I can play quick bowling, even though you're 42 or what he was back then.
What was the most memorable part of playing in England for you?
The experience,
Just
playing in English conditions, learning how to play against good, solid cricketers, playing in the championship. I thought I was a good cricketer in California, but when I did my 5 years in England, it really, really developed me, Peter. I can talk cricket, I can play cricket, I just can't speak cricket. but it made me into a solid. It did. It made me into a solid cricketer. I was scoring hundreds all over the place, and that's when I came home. And I brought Neil Lashkari over there. Neil Lashkari, who played for the U.S. team. I brought him over there to my club. It was an experience. I learned how to play cricket in England. That's what developed me.
Did he get treated differently, or did he get the same kind of American treatment that you did? Because again, he's somebody who born in Leeds, but basically moved to California when he was 6 months old. So he's essentially grown up all his life in Southern California.
And my goodness, you do your research.
I do,
That's
and
good, yeah.
His dad played first class cricket in India from Gujarat before coming to England and the U.S. So he's got Indian roots, but you talk to him, he's as American as apple pie. Was he getting the same treatment that you got? The Trueman treatment. I'm not playing against this American, or did they treat him a bit more respectfully?
No, they gave it to me. They treated him more respectfully. Neil was a beautiful bat, and instead of looking for another Australian guy to recruit and bring over, they asked me if I had any friends, and he came over, and they treated him with the utmost. I got it. He didn't get it. He was a beautiful bat. They couldn't believe that they had two Americans who could play like me and Neil, and they were so happy.